Hey guys, this video is for the order of operations quick check. So just as a reminder, the order of operations, we usually refer to it as Pemdas, which is just a way to help us remember that in the first step you want to take care of your parentheses. In the second step you want to take care of exponents. In the third step it's multiply or divide. Multiplication does not come before division, they're in the same step, so it's just whichever one comes first. And then in the fourth step, we add or subtract. So let's look at one of the problems from the quick check. So it says, in the expression 7 to the third power minus 4 times 3 plus 8, the first operation is what? Oh, look, I already marked it out. Our first step is parentheses, but there are no parentheses here, so we can't do that. The second step is exponents, and we do have an exponent. So exponents would be our first step. If we look at the next problem, it says evaluate, and evaluate is just a fancy math word for solve it. So we want to go ahead and solve this. Our first step says parentheses, and we do have parentheses in this case. So we need to take care of the parentheses before we do anything else. But if you notice inside the parentheses, we also see an exponent. So I need to do that. I can't do 14 minus 2 and then raise it to the third power. I have to do the exponent before I can subtract. So I'm going to do negative 2 to the third power first. And I'm going to do that in my calculator, and I'll show you how to type that in. So I opened Desmos, which is a free computer calculator, and everybody can use it on every assignment. And I'm going to type in negative 2. And then I want to raise it to the third power. I'm not going to use this button because that would put a 2 up top, and I want the power to be a 3. So I'm going to use that button and then click 3. And then over here, it'll show you what it equals. So negative 2 to the third power equals negative 8. I'm going to go back and put that in my notebook. All right, so I know now that negative 2 to the third power is 8, and I'm just going to write down the rest of this as well. So 5 parentheses 14 minus 8, I'm sorry, it was negative 8, plus 8 divided by 4. Okay, now I still haven't dealt with the parentheses yet, so I still need to do the parentheses, which is 14 minus 8. And you can do that in your calculator as well, or you can do it in your brain, but 14 minus 8 is 6. So if I take care of my parentheses right here, I'll be left with a 6. Now, I'm still going to leave it like that, and I'll tell you why. I've done the inside of the parentheses, but if I just wrote down a 6 right next to it, I might think that that said 56. And it doesn't say 56. This actually means 5 times whatever's left in the parentheses. So I went ahead and left the parentheses to remind myself that I am multiplying 5 times 6, that it doesn't equal 56. So we've done, let me go over here and mark it off. Even though it doesn't, I still have a parentheses, but I've done what's inside the parentheses. I've done my exponent, so now I'm on my multiply or divide step. The first thing I see is 5 times 6. So I'm going to deal with this first. 5 times 6 is 30. And I'm just going to bring everything else down. So that was a multiply, but in the same step you can also do division. And notice I do have division here. I have 8 divided by 4. I have to do that before I can try to add. So I'm going to do 8 divided by 4, and that equals 2. And then I'm just bringing my 30 and my plus sign straight down. So I've completed the multiply and divide step, and now I'm on to the add or subtract step. And so I do 30 plus 2, and my final answer is 32. So for this one, we had to take care of our exponent, then take care of our parentheses, then multiply, then divide, and then add. Let's look at another example. Given w equals 20, what is the answer to w plus parentheses w minus 12 divided by 2 squared times 3 times 7? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is everywhere I see the letter w, I'm going to substitute in a 20. So I'm going to rewrite this. Right here, there's a w. Instead, I'm going to write 20. And then a plus sign and a parentheses. Instead of this w, I'm going to write 20. And then I'm writing my minus 12 divided by 2 squared times 3, close the parentheses, times 7. Everything looks the exact same except where I had a W, I plugged in a 20. That's the only thing I did in that first step. All right, now we need to go through our order of operations. The very first thing is parentheses. So I need to deal with all of this before I deal with the 20 or before I deal with the 7. So inside the parentheses, I actually have to follow the order of operations within there as well. So if I'm looking inside the parentheses and I look for exponents, I do have an exponent. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that exponent first, which is 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and write down everything else. And instead of writing 2 squared, I wrote 4. Okay. The next thing I'm checking inside, I'm still only dealing inside of my parentheses because I've got to get these parentheses done first. Oops, I didn't change the color. So I've done exponent. Now I'm going to look for multiply and divide. Now multiply and divide are the same step, so it doesn't matter which one comes first. You just get to the first one that you get to. It's not like you have to multiply before you can divide. It's whatever comes to first. So I have 20 minus, and then I have 12 divided by 4, and then I have times 3. So in this case, my division symbol came first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do negative 12 divided by 4. And negative 12 divided by 4 is a negative 3. And now I'm just going to write down everything else. Oops, I thought I changed colors. I don't know why it's not changing colors. Oh well, I tried. And now remember, I'm still trying to figure out the parentheses. So I'm still dealing with this, and I'm on the multiply or divide step. I just divided, but I still have multiplication here. Notice right here it says multiply. So I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply my negative 3 times 3. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. And then I'm just going to write everything else straight down where it belongs. All right, my parentheses still aren't done, so let me go back and do my parentheses still. I've done the multiply and divide step. I'm on to add or subtract, and 20 minus 9 is 11. So when I subtract that, I get 11, and then I'm going to bring this part straight down. I finally finished my parentheses. So now I just have to go in the order of operations. I have an addition and I have a multiplication. So I need to go over here and see which one comes first. Well, multiply comes before adding. So I need to make sure that I multiply 11 times 7 before I add. And 11 times 7 is 77. I'm just going to bring my plus 20 straight down. And then if I add those two together, I get 97 as my final answer. Let's look at this one, evaluate. So this one's not quite as tricky. That last one was pretty difficult. For this one, I'm going to go through my order of operations. I don't see any parentheses, so that step is done. I don't see any exponents, so that step is done. I'm on the multiply or divide step, so I'm just going to see what I come to first. I have a minus, I'm not there yet. Then I see a multiply. That's the first thing that I came to, so I'm going to deal with negative 3 times 4 first. I'm just going to bring the 10 straight down. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. And then I'm going to bring the divided by 6 straight down. All right, I did the multiply, but I still need to check the rest. So now I'm going to check divide. And I do have a division. So I need to go ahead and do negative 12 divided by 6. Negative 12 divided by 6 is going to give me a negative 2. And then I'm just going to bring this 10 straight down. I finished multiplying and dividing, so now I'm looking for adding or subtracting, and I do have subtraction, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract. And 10 minus 2 is 8. All right, this one says, which algebraic expression represents the following? The sum of 3 times a number and 6. Okay, so sum means that you're going to add things together. And in this case, it tells us that we're going to add 3 times a number and 6. So that's what I'm going to be adding together. Times means multiply. A number, I'm just going to give it a letter. I'll give it letter N. And then 6 is obviously a number. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. I'm going to have 3 times a number, so I'm going to let that be 3 times n, and 6. But remember, it says we're doing the sum of that, so we're adding those two things together. We're adding 3n and 6. So the sum of 3 times a number and 6. This is how you would write that out. We have the sum of 3 times a number and 6. All right, I hope this helps on your order of operations quiz. Quick check,